Frank Miller, born January 27, 1957, is an American comic book writer, penciler, and inker, novelist, screenwriter, film director, and producer best known for his comic book stories and graphic novels such as Ronin, Daredevil, Born Again, The Dark Knight Returns, Bagman, Year One, Sin City, and 300. He also directed the film version of The Spirit, shared directing duties with Robert Rodriguez on Sin City and Sin City, A Dame to Kill For, and produced the film 300. His film Sin City earned a Palme d'Or nomination, and he has received every major comic book industry award. In 2015, Miller was inducted into the Will Eisner Award Hall of Fame. He created the comic book characters Elektra for Marvel Comics' Daredevil series and a female version of the Ronin character, Carrie Kelly, for DC Comics. Miller is noted for combining film noir and manga influences in his comic art creations. I realized when I started Sin City that I found American and English comics be too wordy, too constipated, and Japanese comics to be too empty. So I was attempting to do a hybrid. Miller was born in Olney, Maryland, on January 27, 1957, and raised in Montpelier, Vermont, the fifth of 7 children of a nurse mother and a carpenter/electrician father. His family was Irish Catholic. Miller grew up a comics fan. A letter he wrote to Marvel Comics was published in the CAD No. 3, April 1973. His first published work was at Western Publishing's Gold Key Comics imprint, received at the recommendation of comics artist Neil Adams, to whom a fledgling Miller, after moving to New York City, had shown samples and received much critique and occasional informal lessons. Though no published credits appear, he is tentatively credited with the 3-page story Royal Feast in the licensed TV series comic book The Twilight Zone No. 84, June 1978, by an unknown writer, and is credited with the 5-page Endless Cloud, also by an unknown writer, in the following issue, July 1978. By the time of the latter, Miller had his first confirmed credit in writer Wyatt Guyan's 6-page Deliver Me from D-Day, inked by Danny Bulinati, in Weird War Tales No. 64, June 1978. Former Marvel editor-in-chief Jim Shooter recalled Miller going to DC Comics after having broken in with a small job from Western Publishing, I think. Thus emboldened, he went to DC, and after getting savaged by Joe Orlando, got in to see art director Vinnie Coletta, who recognized talent and arranged for him to get a 1-page war comic job. The Grand Comics database does not list this job. There may have been a 1-page DC story, or Shooter may have misremembered the page count or have been referring to the 2-page story, by writer Roger Mackenzie. Slowly, painfully, you dig your way from the cold, choking debris. In Weird War Tales No. 68, October 1978. Other fledgling work at DC included the 6-page The Greatest Story Never Told, by writer Paul Kupperberg, in that same issue, and the 5-page The Edge of History, written by Elliot S. Magjian, in Unknown Soldier No. 219, September 1978. His first work for Marvel Comics was penciling the 17-page story The Master Assassin of Mars, Part 3 in John Carter, Warlord of Mars No. 18, November 1978. At Marvel, Miller settled in as a regular fill-in and cover artist, working on a variety of titles. One of these jobs was drawing Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man #2728, February-March 1979, which guest-starred Daredevil. At the time, sales of the Daredevil title were poor, but Miller saw potential in a blind protagonist in a purely visual medium, he recalled in 2000. Miller went to writer and staffer Joe Duffy, a mentor figure whom he called his guardian angel at Marvel, and she passed on his interest to editor-in-chief Jim Shooter to get Miller work on Daredevil's regular title. Shooter agreed and made Miller the new penciler on the title. As Miller recalled in 2008, when I first showed up in New York, I showed up with a bunch of comics, a bunch of samples, of guys in trench coats and old cars and such. And comics editors said, "Where are the guys in tights?" And I had to learn how to do it. But as soon as a title came along, when Daredevil's signature artist Gene Colan left Daredevil, I realized it was my secret into do crime comics with a superhero in them. And so I lobbied for the title and got it. Daredevil No. 158, May 1979, Miller's debut on the title, was the finale of an ongoing story written by Roger Mackenzie and inked by Klaus Janson. After this issue, Miller became one of Marvel's rising stars. However, sales on Daredevil did not improve. Marvel's management continued to discuss cancellation, and Miller himself almost quit the series, as he disliked Mackenzie's scripts. Miller's fortunes changed with the arrival of Denny O'Neil as editor. Realizing Miller's unhappiness with the series and impressed by a backup story Miller had written, O'Neil moved Mackenzie to another project so that Miller could try writing the series himself. Miller and O'Neil maintained a friendly working relationship throughout his run on the series. With issue number 168, January 1981, Miller took over full duties as writer and penciler. Sales rose so swiftly that Marvel once again began publishing Daredevil monthly rather than bi-monthly just 3 issues after Miller became its writer. Issue number 168 saw the first full appearance of the ninja mercenary Elektra, who became a popular character and star in a 2005 motion picture, although her first cover appearance was 4 months earlier on Miller's cover of the Comics Journal number 58. Miller later wrote and drew a solo Elektra story in Bizarre Adventures number 28, October 1981. He added a martial arts aspect to Daredevil's fighting skills, and introduced previously unseen characters who had played a major part in the character's youth. Stake, leader of the ninja clan The Chaste, who had been Murdoch's sensei after he was blinded, and a rival clan called The Hand. Unable to handle both writing and penciling Daredevil on the new monthly schedule, Miller began increasingly relying on Janson for the artwork, sending him looser and looser pencils beginning with number 173. By issue number 185, Miller had virtually relinquished his role as Daredevil's artist, and he was providing only rough layouts for Janson to both pencil and ink, allowing Miller to focus on the writing. Miller's work on Daredevil was characterized by darker themes and stories. This peaked when in number 181, April 1982, he had the assassin Bullseye kill Elektra, and Daredevil subsequently attempt to kill him. Miller finished his Daredevil run with issue number 191, February 1983, which he cited in a winter 1983 interview as the issue he is most proud of. By this time he had transformed a second-tier character into one of Marvel's most popular. Additionally, Miller drew a short Batman Christmas story, Wanted, Santa Claus, Dead or Alive, written by Dennis O'Neil for DC's Special Series number 21, Spring 1980. This was his first professional experience with a character with which, like Daredevil, he became closely associated. At Marvel, O'Neil and Miller collaborated on 2 issues of the Amazing Spider-Man Annual. The 1980 annual featured a team-up with Doctor Strange, while the 1981 annual showcased a meeting with the Punisher. As penciler and co-plotter, Miller, together with writer Chris Claremont, produced the miniseries Wolverine #14, September Dec 1982, inked by Joseph Rubinstein and spinning off from the popular X-Men title. Miller used this miniseries to expand on Wolverine's character. The series was a critical success and further cemented Miller's place as an industry star. His first creator-owned title was DC Comics' 6-issue miniseries Ronin, 1983-1984. In 1985, DC Comics named Miller as one of the honorees in the company's 50th anniversary publication 50 Who Made DC Great. Miller was involved in a few unpublished projects in the early 1980s. A house advertisement for Doctor Strange appeared in Marvel Comics cover dated February 1981. It stated, "Watch for the new adventures of Earth's Sorcerer Supreme, as mystically conjured by Roger Stern and Frank Miller." Miller's only contribution to the series was the cover for Doctor Strange number 46, April 1981. Other commitments prevented him from working on the series. Miller and Steve Gerber made a proposal to revamp DC's 3 biggest characters, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, under a line called Metropolis in comics titled Man of Steel or The Man of Steel, Dark Knight and Amazon. However, this proposal was not accepted. In 1986, DC Comics released the writer-penciler Miller's Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, a 4-issue miniseries printed in what the publisher called prestige format, square-bound, rather than stapled, on heavy stock paper rather than newsprint, and with cardstock rather than glossy paper covers. It was inked by Klaus Janson and colored by Lynn Varley. The story tells how Batman retired after the death of the second Robin, Jason Todd, and, at age 55, returns to fight crime in a dark and violent future. Miller created a tough, gritty Batman, referring to him as the Dark Knight based upon his being called the Dark Knight Detective in some 1970s portrayals, although the nickname Dark Knight for Batman dates back to 1940. Released the same year as Alan Moore's and Dave Gibbons' DC miniseries Watchmen, it showcased a new form of more adult-oriented storytelling to both comics fans and a crossover mainstream audience. The Dark Knight Returns influenced the comic book industry by heralding a new wave of darker characters. The trade paperback collection proved to be a big seller for DC and remains in print 25 years after first being published. By this time, Miller had returned as the writer of Daredevil. Following his self-contained story Badlands, penciled by John Buscema, in number 219, June 1985, he co-wrote number 226, January 1986, with departing writer Dennis O'Neil. Then, with artist David Mazzucchelli, he crafted a 7-issue story arc that, like The Dark Knight Returns, similarly redefined and reinvigorated its main character. The storyline, Daredevil, Born Again, in #227-233, February-August 1986, chronicled the hero's Catholic background and the destruction and rebirth of his real-life identity, Manhattan attorney Matt Murdock, at the hands of Daredevil's nemesis, the crime lord Wilson Fisk, also known as the Kingpin. After completing the Born Again arc, Frank Miller intended to produce a 2-part story with artist Walt Simonson, but it was never completed and remains unpublished. Miller and artist Bill Sienkiewicz produced the graphic novel Daredevil, Love and War in 1986. Featuring the character of the Kingpin, it indirectly bridges Miller's first run on Daredevil and Born Again by explaining the change in the Kingpin's attitude toward Daredevil. Miller and Sienkiewicz also produced the 8-issue miniseries Elektra, Assassin for Epic Comics. Set outside regular Marvel continuity, it featured a wild tale of cyborgs and ninjas, while expanding further on Elektra's background. Both of these projects were critically well received. Elektra, Assassin was praised for its bold storytelling, but neither it nor Daredevil, Love and War had the influence or reached as many readers as Dark Knight Returns or Born Again. Miller's final major story in this period was in Batman issues 404 to 407 in 1987, another collaboration with Mazzucchelli. Titled Batman, Year 1, this was Miller's version of the origin of Batman, in which he retconned many details and adapted the story to fit his Dark Knight continuity. Proving to be hugely popular, this was as influential as Miller's previous work. A trade paperback released in 1988 remains in print, and is one of DC's best-selling books. The story was adapted as an original animated film video in 2011. Miller had also drawn the covers for the first 12 issues of First Comics English-language reprints of Kazuo Koike and Goseki Kojima's Lone Wolf and Cub. This helped bring Japanese manga to a wider Western audience. During this time, Miller, along with Marv Wolfman, Alan Moore, and Howard Chaykin, had been in dispute with DC Comics over a proposed rating system for comics. Disagreeing with what he saw as censorship, Miller refused to do any further work for DC, and he took his future projects to the independent publisher Dark Horse Comics. From then on, Miller was a major supporter of creator rights and became a major voice against censorship in comics. After announcing he intended to release his work only via the independent publisher Dark Horse Comics, Miller completed one final project for Epic Comics, the mature audience imprint of Marvel Comics. Elektra Lives Again was a fully painted graphic novel written and drawn by Miller and colored by longtime partner Lynn Varley, telling the story of the resurrection of Elektra from the dead and Daredevil's quest to find her, as well as showing Miller's will to experiment with new storytelling techniques. 1990 saw Miller and artist Jeff Darrow start work on Hard Boiled, a 3-issue miniseries. The title, a mix of violence and satire, was praised for Darrow's highly detailed art and Miller's writing. At the same time, Miller and artist Dave Gibbons produced Give Me Liberty, a 4-issue miniseries for Dark Horse. Give Me Liberty was followed by sequel miniseries and specials expanding on the story of protagonist Martha Washington, an African-American woman in modern and near-future Southern North America, all of which were written by Miller and drawn by Gibbons. Miller also wrote the scripts for the science fiction films RoboCop 2 and RoboCop 3, about a police cyborg. Neither was critically well received. In 2007, Miller stated that there was a lot of interference in the writing process. It wasn't ideal. After working on the 2 RoboCop movies, I really thought that was it for me in the business of film. Miller came into contact with the fictional cyborg once more, writing the comic book miniseries RoboCop vs. the Terminator, with art by Walter Simonson. In 2003, Miller's screenplay for RoboCop 2 was adapted by Stephen Grant for Avatar Press's Pulsar imprint. Illustrated by Juan Jose RYP, the series is called Frank Miller's RoboCop and contains plot elements that were divided between RoboCop 2 and RoboCop 3. In 1991, Miller started work on his first Sin City story. Serialized in Dark Horse Presents #5162, it proved to be another success, and the story was released in a trade paperback. This first Sin City yarn was re-released in 1995 under the name The Hard Goodbye. Sin City proved to be Miller's main project for much of the remainder of the decade, as Miller told more Sin City stories within this noir world of his creation, in the process helping to revitalize the crime comics genre. Sin City proved artistically auspicious for Miller and again brought his work to a wider audience without comics. Miller lived in Los Angeles, California in the 1990s, which influenced Sin City. Daredevil, The Man Without Fear was a 5-issue miniseries published by Marvel Comics in 1993. In this story, Miller and artist John Romita Jr. told Daredevil's origins differently from in the previous comics, and they provided additional detail to his beginnings. Miller also returned to superheroes by writing issue number 11 of Todd McFarlane's Spawn, as well as the Spawn/Batman crossover for Image Comics. In 1995, Miller and Darrow collaborated again on Big Guy and Rusty the Boy Robot, published as a 2-part miniseries by Dark Horse Comics. In 1999 it became an animated series on Fox Kids. During this period, Miller became one of the founding members of the comic imprint Legend, under which many of his Sin City works were released, via Dark Horse. Written and illustrated by Frank Miller with painted colors by Varley, 300 was a 1998 comic book miniseries, released as a hardcover collection in 1999, retelling the Battle of Thermopylae and the events leading up to it from the perspective of Leonidas of Sparta. 300 was particularly inspired by the 1962 film The 300 Spartans, a movie that Miller watched as a young boy. In 2007, 300 was adapted by director Zack Snyder into a successful film. He was one of the artists on the Superman and Batman, World's Funnest One-Shot written by Evan Dorkin published in 2000. Miller moved back to Hell's Kitchen by 2001 and was creating Batman, The Dark Knight Strikes Again as the 9/11 terrorist attacks occurred about 4 miles from that neighborhood. His differences with DC Comics put aside, he saw the sequel initially released as a 3-issue miniseries, and though it sold well, it received a mixed to negative reception. Miller also returned to writing Batman in 2005, taking on the writing duties of All-Star Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder, a series set inside of what Miller describes as the Dark Knight universe, and drawn by Jim Lee. Miller's previous attitude towards movie adaptations was to change after Robert Rodriguez made a short film based on a story from Miller's Sin City entitled The Customer Is Always Right. Miller was pleased with the result, leading to him and Rodriguez directing a full-length film, Sin City, using Miller's original comics panels as storyboards. The film was released in the US on April 1, 2005. The film's success brought renewed attention to Miller's Sin City projects. Similarly, a 2006 film adaptation of 300, directed solely by Zack Snyder, brought new attention and controversy to Miller's original comic book work. A sequel to the film, Sin City, A Dame to Kill For, based on Miller's second Sin City series and co-directed by Miller and Robert Rodriguez, was released in theaters on August 22, 2014. On July 10, 2015, at the San Diego Comic-Con, Miller was inducted into the Eisner Awards Hall of Fame. From 2015 to 2017, DC released a 9-issue, bi-monthly sequel to The Dark Knight Returns and The Dark Knight Strikes Again, titled The Dark Knight 3, The Master Race. Miller co-wrote it with Brian Azzarello, and Andy Kubert and Klaus Janson are the artists. Issue 1 was the top-selling comic of November 2015, moving an estimated 440,234 copies. In 2016, Miller and Azzarello also co-wrote the graphic novel, The Dark Knight Returns, The Last Crusade, with art by John Romita Jr. and Peter Steigerwald. From April to August 2018, Dark Horse Comics published monthly Miller's 5-issue limited series prequel/sequel to 300, entitled Xerxes, The Fall of the House of Darius and the Rise of Alexander. The series marks Miller's first full writer-artist comics creation since Holy Terror. In 2017, Miller announced he was writing a Superman Year 1 project with artwork by John Romita Jr. The 3-issue series was released by DC Black Label from June to October 2019. Simon & Schuster Children's Publishing published as an author Tom Wheeler's young adult novel Cursed, about the King Arthur legend from the point of view of the Lady of the Lake in October 2019. Netflix in 2018 ordered a 10-episode series based on the book that was released in July 2020. In December 2019, DC released Dark Knight Returns, The Golden Child, the 4th series set in the Dark Knight Returns universe. It is written by Miller with artwork by Rafael Grampa. In October 2012, Joanna Gallardo Mills, who began working for Miller as an executive coordinator in November 2008, filed suit against Miller in Manhattan for discrimination and mental anguish, stating that Miller's former girlfriend, Kimberly Cox, created a hostile work environment for Gallardo Mills and Miller in Cox's Hell's Kitchen living and workspace. In July 2020, producer Stephen Leroy, who worked on Sin City, A Day to Kill 4, filed a $25 million defamation and economic interference lawsuit against Miller and fellow producer Silent Thomas. Leroy alleged the pair had repeatedly made false, misleading and defamatory statements about Leroy's ownership of the developmental rights of Sin City and Hardboiled to Skydance Media CEO David Ellison and other Skydance executives and prevented the creation of a film adaptation of Hardboiled and a TV series based on Sin City. Miller's attorney Alan Grodsky denied the allegations, stating, "The claims asserted in Mr. Leroy's lawsuit are baseless, and we will be aggressively defending this lawsuit." In July 2011 at the San Diego Comic-Con International, while promoting his upcoming graphic novel Holy Terror, in which the protagonist hero fights Al-Qaeda terrorists, Miller made a remark about Islamic terrorism in Islam, saying, "I was raised Catholic and I could tell you a lot about the Spanish Inquisition, but the mysteries of the Catholic Church elude me. And I could tell you a lot about Al-Qaeda, but the mysteries of Islam elude me too." In November 2011, Miller posted remarks pertaining to the Occupy Wall Street movement on his blog, calling it nothing but a pack of louts, thieves, and rapists, fed by Woodstock-era nostalgia and putrid false righteousness. He said of the movement, "Wake up, pawn scum. America is at war against a ruthless enemy. Maybe, between bots of self-pity and all the other tasty tidbits of narcissism you've been served up in your sheltered, comfy little worlds, you've heard terms like Al-Qaeda and Islamicism." Miller's statement generated controversy. In a 2018 interview, Miller backed away from his comments, saying that he wasn't thinking clearly when he made them and alluded to a very dark time in his life during which they were made. Miller was married to colorist Lynn Varley from 1986 to 2005. She colored many of his most acclaimed works, from Ronin in 1984 through 300 in 1998, and the backgrounds to the 2007 movie 300. Miller has since been romantically linked to New York-based Shakespearean scholar Kimberly Halliburton Cox, who had a cameo in The Spirit, 2008. In response to claims that his comics are conservative, Miller said, "I'm not a conservative. I'm a libertarian." Although still conforming to traditional comic book styles, Miller infused his first issue of Daredevil with his own film noir style. Miller sketched the roofs of New York in an attempt to give his Daredevil art an authentic feel not commonly seen in superhero comics at the time. One journalist noted, "Daredevil's New York, under Frank's run, became darker and more dangerous than the Spider-Man New York he'd seemingly lived in before. New York City itself, particularly Daredevil's Hell's Kitchen neighborhood, became as much a character as the shadowy crime fighter. The stories often took place on the rooftop level, with water towers, pipes, and chimneys jutting out to create a skyline reminiscent of German Expressionism's dramatic edges and shadows." Ronin shows some of the strongest influences of manga and bande dessinée on Miller's style, both in the artwork and narrative style. Sin City was drawn in black and white to emphasize its film noir origins. Miller has said he opposes naturalism in comic art. "People are attempting to bring a superficial reality to superheroes, which is rather stupid. They work best as the flamboyant fantasies they are. I mean, these are characters that are broad and big. I don't need to see sweat patches under Superman's arms. I want to see him fly." Daredevil, Born Again and The Dark Knight Returns were both critical successes and influential on subsequent generations of creators to the point of being considered classics of the medium. Batman, Year One was also met with praise for its gritty style, while comics including Ronin, 300 and Sin City were also successful, cementing Miller's place as a legend of comic books. However, later material such as Batman, The Dark Knight Strikes Again received mixed reviews. In particular, All-Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder was widely considered a sign of Miller's creative decline. Miller's graphic novel Holy Terror was accused of being anti-Islamic. Fellow comic book writer Alan Moore has described Miller's work from Sin City onward as homophobic and misogynistic, despite praising his early Batman and Daredevil material. Moore previously penned a flattering introduction to an early collected edition of The Dark Knight Returns, and the two have remained friends. Miller later said that he regretted Holy Terror, saying, "I don't want to wipe out chapters of my own biography. But I'm not capable of that book again." In terms of Miller's film career, His 2008 adaptation of The Spirit received negative reviews, earning a Rotten Tomatoes approval rating of 14% based on 111 reviews, with an average rating of 3.58/10. Metacritic gave it an aggregate score of 30 out of 100, based on 24 critics, indicating generally negative reviews, and a Metascore of 30/100 at Metacritic.com. Meanwhile, his film adaptation of Sin City was well received by audiences and critics. Inkpot Awards. Received an Inkpot Award, 1981 Kirby Awards. Best Single Issue. 1986 Daredevil number 227 Apocalypse, Marvel. 1987 Batman, The Dark Knight Returns number 1 The Dark Knight Returns, DC. Best Writer/Artist, Single or Team, 1986 Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli, for Daredevil, Born Again, Marvel. Best Graphic Album, 1987 Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, DC. Best Art Team, 1987 Frank Miller, Klaus Janson, and Lynn Varley, for Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, DC. Eisner Awards. Best Writer/Artist. 1991 for Elektra Lives Again, Marvel. 1993 for Sin City, Dark Horse. 1999 for 300, Dark Horse. Best Graphic Album, New, 1991 Elektra Lives Again, Marvel. Best Finite Series/Limited Series. 1991 Give Me Liberty, Dark Horse. 1995 Sin City, A Dame to Kill For, Dark Horse/Legend. 1996 Sin City, The Big Fat Kill, Dark Horse/Legend. 1999 300, Dark Horse. Best Graphic Album, Reprint. 1993 Sin City, Dark Horse. 1998 Sin City, The Yellow Bastard, Dark Horse. Best Artist/Penciler/Inker or Penciler/Inker Team, 1993 for Sin City, Dark Horse. Best Short Story, 1995 The Babe Wore Red, in Sin City, The Babe Wore Red and Other Stories, Dark Horse/Legend. Eisner Awards Hall of Fame, 2015 Harvey Awards. Best Continuing or Limited Series. 1996 Sin City, Dark Horse. 1999 300, Dark Horse. Best Graphic Album of Original Work, 1998 Sin City, Family Values, Dark Horse. Best Domestic Reprint Project, 1997 Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, 10th Anniversary Edition, DC, Eagle Awards. Favorite Comic Book Penciler, 1983. Favorite Comic Book Writer, U.S., 1986. Roll of Honor, 1987. Favorite Comic Book Penciler, 1987. Favorite Comic Album, U.S., 1987 Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, DC. Favorite Cover, U.S., 1987 Batman, The Dark Knight Returns number 1, DC. Favorite Comic Album, U.S., 1988 Daredevil, Love and War, DC. Favorite Black and White Comic Book, 2000 Hell and Back, A Sin City Love Story, Dark Horse. Favorite Comics Writer/Artist, 2002. Favorite Comics Related Book, 2006 Eisner/Miller, Dark Horse. Favorite Comics Writer/Artist, 2012 UK Comic Art Award. Best Original Graphic Novel/One-Shot, 1991 Elektra Lives Again, Epic Comics. Best Writer/Artist, 1992. Best Writer/Artist, 1993. Best Graphic Novel Collection, 1993 Sin City. Best Writer/Artist, 1994 Cannes Film Festival. Palme d'Or, 2005, nominated, Sin City, Dimension Films, Scream Awards. The Comic-Con Icon Award, 2006. Weird War Tales, K. Deliver Me from D-Day, with Wyatt Guyan, in number 64, 1978. The Greatest Story Never Told, with Paul Kupperberg, in number 68, 1978. The Day After Doomsday, with Roger McKenzie, in number 68, 1978. Unknown Soldier number 219, The Edge of History, A, with Elliot S. Magjian, 1978. Batman. Batman, The Greatest Stories Ever Told Volume 1, TPB, 192 pages, 2005, ISBN 1-4012-0444-9, includes DC Special Series Number 21, Wanted, Santa Claus, Dead or Alive. Hey, with Dennis O'Neil, 1979. Absolute Dark Knight, HC, 512 pages, 2006, ISBN 1-4012-1079-1, collects. Batman, The Dark Knight Returns #14, with a, 1986. Batman, The Dark Knight Strikes Again #13, with a, 2001. The Dark Knight 3, The Master Race #19W, with Brian Azzarello and Andy Kubert, 2015 to 2017. The Dark Knight Returns, The Last Crusade, W, with Brian Azzarello and John Romita Jr., 2016. Dark Knight Returns, The Golden Child, W, with Raphael Grampa and Jordi Belair, 2019. Batman, Year 1, HC, 144 pages, 2005, ISBN 1-4012-0690-5, TPB, 2007, ISBN 1-4012-0752-9, collects. Batman #404407, W, with David Mazzucchelli, 1987. All-Star Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder #110, W, with Jim Lee, 2005 to 2008. Issues #19 collected as Volume 1, HC, 240 pages, 2008, ISBN 1-4012-1681-1, TPB, 2009, ISBN 1-4012-2008-8. Ronin #16, with a, 1983, collected as Ronin, TPB, 302 pages, 1987, ISBN 0-446-38674-X, HC, 328 pages, 2008, ISBN 1-4012-1908-X. Superman number 400, The Living Legends of Superman, A, with Elliot S. Magjian, among other artists, 1984. Fanboy number 5, A, with Mark Evanier, among other artists, 1999, collected in Fanboy, TPB, 144 pages, 2001, ISBN 1-56389-724-5. Superman and Batman, World's Funnest, Last Imp Standing. A, with Evan Dorkin, among other artists, One Shot, 2000. Orion number 3, Tales of the New Gods, Nativity, A, with Walt Simonson, 2000, collected in O, The Gates of Apocalypse, TPB, 144 pages, 2001, ISBN 1-56389-778-4. Superman, Year 1 #1-3, W, with John Romita Jr., 2019. John Carter, Warlord of Mars number 18, Meanwhile, Back in Helium. A, with Chris Claremont, 1978, collected in Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter, Warlord of Mars, TPB, 632 pages, Dark Horse, 2011, ISBN 1-59582-692-0, and John Carter, Warlord of Mars Omnibus, HC, 624 pages, 2012, ISBN 0-7851-5990-8. The Complete Frank Miller Spider-Man, HC, 208 pages, 2002, ISBN 0-7851-0899-8, collects. The Spectacular Spider-Man #2728, A, with Bill Mantlo, 1979. The Amazing Spider-Man Annual #1415, A, with Dennis O'Neil, 1980 to 1981. Marvel Team Up. Introducing Karma. With Chris Claremont, in number 100, 1980. Power Play. W, with Herb Trimpe, in Annual number 4, 1981. Marvel 2-in-1 number 51, Full House, Dragon's High. A, with Peter B. Gillis, 1979, collected in Essential Marvel 2-in-1 Volume 2, TPB, 568 pages, 2007, ISBN 0-7851-2698-8. Daredevil. Daredevil by Frank Miller and Klaus Janson Omnibus, HC, 840 pages, 2007, ISBN 0-7851-2343-1, collects. A Grave Mistake, Game, with Roger McKenzie, in number 158, 1979, Marked for Death, A. With Roger Mackenzie, in hashtag 159-161, 1979-1980. Blind Alley, A. With Roger Mackenzie, in number 163, 1980. Expose, A. With Roger Mackenzie, in number 164, 1980. Arms of the Octopus, with A. With Roger Mackenzie, in number 165, 1980. Till Death Do Us Part, with A. With Roger Mackenzie, in number 166, 1980. The Mauler, A. With David Michelinie, in number 167, 1980. Elektra, with A. in number 168, 1981. Devils, with A. in number 169, 1980. Gungwars, with A. in hashtag 170-172, 1981. The Assassination of Matt Murdock, with A. in hashtag 173-175, 1981. Hunters, with A. in hashtag 176-177, 1981. Paper Chase, with A. in hashtag 178-180, 1982. Last Hand, with A. in hashtag 181-182, 1982. Child's Play, with A. with Roger Mackenzie, in hashtag 183-184, 1982. Guts and Stilts, W. with Klaus Janson, in hashtag 185-186, 1982. Widow's Bite, W. with Klaus Janson, in hashtag 187-190, 1982-1983. Roulette, with A. in number 191, 1983. What If? Number 28. What if Daredevil became an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., with A. in What If? Number 28, 1981. Daredevil Omnibus Companion, HC, 608 pages, 2008, ISBN 0-7851-2676-7, includes Badlands, W. with John Buscema, in number 219, 1985. Warriors, W. with Dennis O'Neil and David Mazzucchelli, in number 226, 1986. Born Again, W. with David Mazzucchelli, in hashtag 227-233, 1986. Daredevil, Love and War, W. with Bill Sienkiewicz, graphic novel, TPB, 64 pages, 1986, ISBN 0-87135-172-2. Daredevil, The Man Without Fear hashtag 15, W. with John Romita Jr., 1993. What If? Number 34, What If Daredevil Were Deaf Instead of Blind? With A. in What If? Number 34, 1982. Elektra by Frank Miller and Bill Sienkiewicz, HC, 400 pages, 2008, ISBN 0-7851-2777-1, collects. Untitled, with A. in Bizarre Adventures number 28, 1981. What If? Number 35, What If Bullseye Had Not Killed Elektra? With A. in What If? Number 35, 1982. Elektra, Assassin hashtag 18, W. with Bill Sienkiewicz, 1986-1987. Elektra Lives Again, with A. graphic novel, HC, 80 pages, 1991, ISBN 0-7851-0890-4. Marvel Spotlight Volume 2 Number 8, Planet Where Time Stood Still. A. with Mike W. Barr and Dick Riley, 1980. Marvel Preview Number 23, Final Warning, A. with Lynn Graham, 1980. Power Man and Iron Fist Number 76, Death Scream of the Warhawk. A. with Chris Claremont and Mike W. Barr, 1981. Bizarre Adventures Number 31, The Philistine Game, with Dennis O'Neil, 1982. Fantastic Four Roast, A. with Fred Hembeck, among other artists, One Shot, 1982. Wolverine hashtag 14, Game, with Chris Claremont, 1982, collected as Wolverine, HC, 144 pages, 2007, ISBN 0-7851-2572-8, TPB, 2009, ISBN 0-7851-3724-6. Incredible Hulk Annual Number 11, Eunice Unchained, A. with Mary Jo Duffy, 1981. Marvel Fanfare Number 18, Home Fires. A. with Roger Stern, 1984. Sensational She-Hulk number 50, He's Dead. Palme, with John Byrne, among other artists, 1993. The Life and Times of Martha Washington in the 21st Century, HC, 600 pages, 2009, ISBN 1-59307-654-1, collects. Give Me Liberty #14W, with Dave Gibbons, 1990-1991, also collected as Give Me Liberty, TPB, 216 pages, 1992, ISBN 0-440-50446-5. Martha Washington Goes to War #15W, with Dave Gibbons, 1994, also collected as MWGTW, TPB, 144 pages, 1996, ISBN 1-56971-090-2. Happy Birthday, Martha Washington, W, with Dave Gibbons, One Shot, 1995. Martha Washington Stranded in Space, W, with Dave Gibbons, One Shot, 1995. Martha Washington Saves the World #13W, with Dave Gibbons, 1997-1998, also collected as MWSTW, TPB, 112 pages, 1999, ISBN 1-56971-384-7. Martha Washington Dies, 2095, W, with Dave Gibbons, One Shot, 2007. Hardboiled #13W, with Jeff Darrow, 1990-1992, collected as Hardboiled, TPB, 128 pages, 1993, ISBN 1-87857-4-58-2. Sin City, with A. Sin City, TPB, 208 pages, 1993, ISBN 1-87857-4-59-0, collects. Episode 1, in Dark Horse Presents 5th Anniversary Special, 1991. Episodes 2 to 13, in Dark Horse Presents #5162, 1991-1992. A Dame to Kill For, TPB, 208 pages, 1994, ISBN 1-87857-4-59-0, collects. A Dame to Kill For #16, 1993-1994. The Big Fat Kill, TPB, 184 pages, 1996, ISBN 1-56971-171-2, collects. The Big Fat Kill #15, 1994-1995. That Yellow Bastard, TPB, 240 pages, 1997, ISBN 1-56971-225-5, collects. That Yellow Bastard #16, 1996. Family Values, graphic novel, TPB, 128 pages, 1997, ISBN 1-56971-313-8. Booze, Broads, and Bullets, TPB, 160 pages, 1998, ISBN 1-56971-366-9, collects. Just Another Saturday Night, in Sin City #1/2, 1997. Fat Man and Little Boy, in San Diego Comic-Con Comics number 4, 1995. The Customer is Always Right, in San Diego Comic-Con Comics number 2, 1992. Silent Night, One Shot, 1995. And Behind Door number 3. In The Babe Wore Red and Other Stories One Shot, 1994. Blue Eyes, in Lost, Lonely, and Lethal One Shot, 1996. Rats, in Lost, Lonely, and Lethal One Shot, 1996. Daddy's Little Girl, in A Decade of Dark Horse number 1, 1996. Sex and Violence, One Shot, 1997. The Babe Wore Red, in The Babe Wore Red and Other Stories One Shot, 1994. Hell and Back, TPB, 312 pages, 2001, ISBN 1-56971-481-9, collects. Hell and Back, A Sin City Love Story #19, 1999-2000. RoboCop vs. The Terminator #14W, with Walt Simonson, 1992. Madman Comics #67W, with Mike Allred, 1995, collected in Madman Volume 2, TPB, 456 pages, 2007, ISBN 1-58240-811-4. The Big Guy and Rusty the Boy Robot #12W, with Jeff Darrow, 1995, collected as TBG and RTBR, TPB, 80 pages, 1996, ISBN 1-56971-201-8. Dark Horse Presents, with A. Lance Blastoff. In #100-1, 1995. Lance Blastoff, America's favorite hero. In number 114, 1996. 300 #15, with A. 1998, collected as 300, HC, 88 pages, 2000, ISBN 1-56971-402-9, TPB, 2002. Dark Horse Maverick 2000, Mercy. With A. Anthology One-Shot, 2000. 9-11, Artists Respond, Volume 1, Untitled, with A. Graphic Novel, TPB, 196 pages, 2002, ISBN 1-56389-881-0. Dark Horse Maverick, Happy Endings, The End, with A. Anthology Graphic Novel, TPB, 96 pages, 2002, ISBN 1-56971-820-2. Autobiographics, Man with Pen and Head, with A. Anthology Graphic Novel, TPB, 104 pages, 2003, ISBN 1-59307-038-1. Usagi Yojimbo number 100, with A. Among Others, 2009, collected in UI, Bridge of Tears, HC, 248 pages, 2009, ISBN 1-59582-297-6, TPB, 2009, ISBN 1-59582-298-4. Xerxes, The Fall of the House of Darius and the Rise of Alexander #1-5, with A. 2018. Mystery #14, Frank Miller's famous detective pin-up, with A. Eclipse, 1983. Strip AIDS USA, Robo-Homophobe. With A. Anthology Graphic Novel, TPB, 140 pages, Last Cast, 1988, ISBN 0-86719-373-5. Dark. Number 1, The Future of Law Enforcement, with A. Mad Love, 1988. Spawn, W. Image. Home Story, with Todd McFarlane, in number 11, 1993, collected in Spawn, Dark Discoveries, TPB, 120 pages, 1997, ISBN 1-887279-18-0. Spawn/Batman, with Todd McFarlane, One Shot, 1994. Bad Boy, W, with Simon Bisley, O&I Press, One Shot, 1997. Holy Terror, with A. Graphic Novel, HC, 120 pages, Legendary Comics, 2011, ISBN 1-9372780-00X. Marvel Premiere number 49, 53-54, 58, Marvel, 1979-1981. Marvel Spotlight number 2, 5, 7, Marvel, 1979-1980. Uncanny X-Men Annual number 3, Marvel, 1979. Marvel Super Special number 14, Marvel, 1979. ROM Space Ignite number 1, 3, 17-18, Marvel, 1979-1981. The Avengers number 193, Marvel, 1980. Captain America number 241, 245, 255, Annual number 5, Marvel, 1980-1981. The Amazing Spider-Man number 203, 218-219, Marvel, 1980-1981. Marvel Team Up number 95, 99, 102, 106, Annual number 3, Marvel, 1980-1981. Star Trek number 5, 10, Marvel, 1980-1981. The Spectacular Spider-Man number 46, 48, 50-52, 54-57, 60, Marvel, 1980-1981. Spider-Woman #3132, Marvel, 1980. Power Man and Iron Fist number 66, 68, 70-74, Marvel, 1980 to 1981. Machine Man number 19, Marvel, 1981. Doctor Strange number 46, Marvel, 1981. Star Wars number 47, Marvel, 1981. The Incredible Hulk number 258, 261, 264, 268, Marvel, 1981 to 1982. Micronauts number 31, Marvel, 1981. Moon Knight number 9, 12, 15, 27, Marvel, 1981. What If? Number 27, Marvel, 1981. Ghost Rider number 59, Marvel, 1981. Amazing Heroes number 4, 25, 69, Fantagraphics Books, 1981 to 1985. Marvel Fanfare number 1, Marvel, 1982. World's Finest Comics number 285, DC Comics, 1982. Wonder Woman number 298, DC Comics, 1982. Spider-Man and Daredevil Special Edition, Marvel, 1984. The New Adventures of Superboy number 51, cover, 1984. Batman and the Outsiders Annual number 1, cover, 1984. Destroyer Duck number 7, Eclipse, 1984. Superman, The Secret Years #14, DC Comics, 1985. Amazing Man number 12, DC Comics, 1986. Anything Goes. Number 2, Fantagraphics Books, 1986. Lone Wolf and Cub #112, First Comics, 1987 to 1988. Death Rattle number 18, Kitchen Sink, 1988. Eternal Warrior number 1, Valiant, 1992. Archer and Armstrong number 1, Valiant, 1992. Magnus, Robot Fighter number 15, Valiant, 1992. Exo Manowar number 7, Valiant, 1992. Shadowman number 4, Valiant, 1992. Roy number 6, Valiant, 1992. Harbinger number 8, Valiant, 1992. Solar, Man of the Atom number 12, Valiant, 1992. Comics Greatest World, Arcadia number 1, Dark Horse, 1993. John Byrne's Next Man number 17, Dark Horse, 1993. Marvel Age number 127, Marvel, 1993. Comics Greatest World, Vortex number 4, Dark Horse, 1993. Zorro number 1, Tops, 1993. X, One Shot to the Head number 4, Dark Horse, 1994. Medal of Honor number 4, Dark Horse, 1995. Mickey Spillane's Might Danger number 1, Techno Comics, 1995. Prophet number 2, Extreme Studios, 1995. X #1822, Dark Horse, 1995 to 1996. G.I. Joe number 1, Dark Horse, 1995. Batman Black and White number 2, DC Comics, 1996. Dark Horse Presents number 115, Dark Horse, 1996. Heavy Metal number 183, HM Communications, 1999. Bo number 38, Cartoon Books, 2000. Spawn number 100, Image, 2000. Green Lantern / Superman, Legend of the Green Flame number 1, DC Comics, 2000. Dark Horse Maverick 2001, Dark Horse, 2001. The Escapists number 1, Dark Horse, 2006. Jurassic Park number 1, IDW Publishing, 2010. Dark Horse Presents number 1, Dark Horse, 2011. The Crete number 0, Dark Horse, 2012. Detective Comics Volume 2, number 27, Variant, DC Comics, 2014. Moonshine number 1, Image, 2016. Shaolin Cowboy, Who'll Stop the Rain number 1, Dark Horse, 2017. RoboCop 2, Miller's original script was heavily edited through rewrites as it was deemed unfilmable. The original script was adapted in 2003 by Stephen Grant into the comics series, Frank Miller's RoboCop. RoboCop 3, Miller co-wrote this with the film's director Fred Dekker. The original script was adapted in 2013 to 2014 by Stephen Grant into the comics series, RoboCop: Last Stand. Sin City. Miller made his directorial debut in this 2005 adaptation of his Sin City yarns, co-directing with Robert Rodriguez. 300. Miller was a producer for the film, which adapted the original comics series, shot for shot, into a feature film in 2006. The Spirit. Although Miller co-directed Sin City, this 2008 film was his first solo directing project. He also wrote the screenplay. Batman, Year One. This was co-written and was due to be directed by Darren Aronofsky until Warner Brothers canceled the project, opting for Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins. It was finally adapted into an animated film, produced by Bruce Timm, resulting in a direct-to-home media released in October 2011. Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, a two-part direct-to-DVD animated film based on The Dark Knight Returns, was released in 2012 and 2013 respectively. Sin City: A Dame to Kill For. In 2005, after Sin City was released, Robert Rodriguez announced plans for a follow-up film that would feature many of the same characters. He planned for the film to be based on A Dame to Kill For. Miller said the film would be a prequel and a sequel with interlinking stories both before and after the first film. Miller, who was writing the screenplay in 2006, had anticipated for production to begin later in the year. The film, co-directed by Miller and Rodriguez, was released in August 2014. The film version of Daredevil, 2003, predominantly used the tone established in stories written by Miller, who had no direct creative input on the film, except for a cameo appearance. In Elektra, 2005, Miller received credit for comic book characters. The Wolverine, 2013, was inspired by the 1982 Wolverine miniseries that Miller penciled with writer Chris Claremont. Frank Miller has appeared in 6 films in small, cameo roles, dying in each. In RoboCop 2, 1990, he plays Frank, the chemist, and dies in an explosion in an illegal drug lab. In Jugular Wine: A Vampire Odyssey, 1994, he is killed by vampires in front of Marvel Comics Stan Lee. In Daredevil, 2003, he appears as a corpse with a pen in his head, thrown by Bullseye, who steals his motorcycle. The credits list Frank Miller as Man with Pen and Head. In Sin City, 2005, he plays the priest killed by Marvin the Confessional. In The Spirit, 2008, which was written and directed by Miller, he appears as Leibovitz, the officer whose head is ripped off by the octopus and thrown at the Spirit. The name alludes to Jack Leibovitz, a co-founder of what became DC Comics. In Sin City: A Dame to Kill For, 2014, which Miller wrote and co-directed, he appears as Sam, a man just shot by another character, played by Miller's co-director Robert Rodriguez, also in a cameo.